That's pretty much what they called me in college. He comes back from the summer vacation and he's just as unsexy as last year. But you know what happens, Shrek? Get a little bit of action.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I am your host, Nick Schreck, and joining me again tonight, it's a real treat, guys. Matt Rodgers back here with me, back-to-back episodes. Rodgers, it's great to be back.
Yeah, Shrek, I'm ready to rip through this part 2 of the Week 2 preview and get some cathartic yelling out about a bunch of shit.
Man, we've really turned the corner from part 1. It was a good therapy session. Here we're going to go into therapy, but it's going to be a lot more yelling than it is going to be, I think, us seeing eye to eye on some things.
As usual.
Yeah, well, that's okay. The love can't last forever, and that's really what we've seen through your therapy sessions. The truth always comes out. You can't hide it all. But, guys, if you missed it, part 1 of the fantasy preview is live now. This is going to be part 2 where we cover the second half of the games, mostly the 4 o'clock games and later. But if you haven't checked that out, listen Spotify, Anchor, anywhere you're tuning in here. Go back, listen to part 1. And get ready for some football. You have questions, send them in. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the usual. We'll do our best to get back to you. We have been slammed the past few weeks, guys. Good problem to have. But just, again, don't take it personal if we don't answer you, and don't send a question in 2 minutes before game time, because when we don't answer you, it's on you. And also really enjoy the messages from people that are upset on Tuesday morning when the guy we told you to play was not the perfect play. Keep them coming, guys. Classy. But before we jump into it, Rodgers, we're going to give a shout-out to MyBookie. If you found $100 in the street, would you leave it or pick it up? Of course you'd take the money. So why do you keep picking winners and not betting on them? That's why I go to MyBookie. It's fast, it's easy, and they pay when you win. Let's face it, where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on. Use the promo code Let's Talk to get a 100% sign-up bonus up to $1,000. That's Let's Talk, guys, over at mybookie.ag. So get on over, sign up, and as long as you're over the age of 18, start winning some money. Rodgers, we don't really have any NFL news here for the people. Bye weeks of Jets and 49ers. You ready to kick this shit off?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's kick it off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the LA Rams. And let's start on the Bucs side of the ball. Where we saw an explosion out of that offense, right? Mike Evans was absolutely unreal. He finally shows us the value that owners thought they were getting when they drafted him. Obviously, a little disappointing here for Chris Godwin. Evans is fixed, obviously kills it. He's going to have a tougher game here against the Rams. He gets Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters. Not ideal. You're not going to see the explosion you saw last week.
Yeah, and I hope if you had patience on Mike Evans, you deserve for him to have won you your week.
Yes.
Unquestionably.
Hopefully. We do know some people panic, but hopefully you did hang in there. Chris Godwin obviously went the opposite direction, 3 receptions for 40 yards. This week, Rodgers, I got to hope he gets a positive game script. They're 10-point underdogs. There's a game total of 50.5 points. I got to think the opportunities will be there for Godwin to have a bounce back, although the 3 for 40 was a bit concerning for me.
Yeah, kind of lame. We talked in the first part of the preview about receivers that you have to be playing that we thought weren't really good or that talented overall. Godwin is. He is a good wide receiver. He is talented. Hopefully this is the bottom end of what you can expect from him. Better days ahead. And honestly, really not an awful bust week for him. So keep rolling out there.
Yep, you were still okay if it happened to you. At the running game, Rodgers, I want nothing to do with Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones. It's a backfield I don't own any shares of, but I also don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I have a little bit of Peyton Barber. This isn't the week. He's a guy with a higher floor and an extremely low ceiling. Not sexy at all. Probably, would you argue, Shrek, the least sexy player in fantasy football right now? I think you can make an argument for that.
Hands down, and I think you could also argue it was the same way, almost the same way last year.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they called me in college. He comes back from the summer vacation and he's just as unsexy as last year. But you know what happens, Shrek? Get a little bit of action. Get a little bit of action. So the volume will be there. The quality won't be great. This analogy is working a little more on point than I thought it would. But, yeah, Barber is not the guy this week, though I do think he has some safety flex value going forward.
Get a little action. The confidence starts coming. You're in therapy on a podcast live for everyone to listen to. You've come a long way.
Exactly.
You've come a long way. We can only hope the same for them. I'm assuming you're off Jameis Winston here against the Rams for any fantasy option at QB.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about streamers. If you've been rolling out Jameis, you're obviously a psychopath. There's nothing we can say to sway you either way. You're not right. You're not wrong. And just do what you're going to do because obviously you're a crazy person.
Don't come after us. We appreciate you for who you are, sir or ma'am.
Just do what you do. You're obviously a loose cannon, and hopefully it works out for you.
Just don't blame us when you lose. O.J. Howard, Rodgers, 3 balls for 66 yards. Not great, but reassuring after he gave you that fat fucking 0 in week 2.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, low end of the tight end will you just can't at this point to me.
No confidence at all. Flip side of the ball, Rams. Let's start with Jared Goff. Can you say the same thing about Jared Goff? You know, is the confidence gone in Jared Goff where you should be looking at these other guys as streaming options?
Yeah, so my confidence in Goff is a little bit gone, and part of it is that he has literally 0 rushing value. I forget, did he have a rushing touchdown this past week? I might be wrong in thinking that.
Let me look. Go ahead.
Keep looking at that. I don't think that he did, but that's his biggest drawback to me. He's another relatively high floor, low ceiling guy with 0 upside. And I think with the guys we talked about in the first part of the preview and a lot of the other streaming situations, you have a lot of guys that could flip for 25 points that I don't think Goff is going to pull. Also on that token, with other guys we talked about, if he is a guy that still is worthy of your starting lineup, this is the week. At home against Tampa Bay, if he doesn't score more than 22 points for you, I think that there's no reason he should find your lineup for a long, long time because it's arguably, again, the best matchup we're going to see for him, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he did have the 1 rushing touchdown, so you're right. But yeah, I mean, if you're a crazy person just like the guy playing Jameis and you want to fucking roll it, go ahead. But the upside is this is the week, like you said, if you're gonna take the chance. But
there's just other options out there, man.
You don't have to do it. There's no need. There's really no need to do it unless you're like, fuck it. I don't want to play the waiver wire and do this. Then you're an idiot. But go ahead. The running back situation, we touched on this in part 1, Rodgers, with the Todd Gurley frustration. Vinny is the poor bastard in our league, who's married to him. A guy who we talked about Devontae Freeman, right? Where like the opportunity's there, and at least we should know if he's going to just continue to shit the bed or not. Todd Gurley is just fucking annoying, is what he is.
Yeah, I mean, all I'll say about Todd Gurley is 2 things. Is that one, you knew what you were getting into with the pitch count issue going in, and that's why you had like a 3rd round value.
Sure.
Fine. He's actually been coming out on the better side of that, at least last week, and although we've seen Malcolm Brown phase out. Gurley looks bad.
Yeah.
He looks like Todd Gurley. The eye test is bad, and there is borderline no receiving game factor to his game whatsoever, and that was huge for him.
Yes.
I mean, I don't mind if he's on a bit of a pitch count. If you're telling me he's only going to be getting 20 touches a game all year, fine. But I need 5 catches in there for a running back one. Well,
and the receiving is a big concern, right? And we're going to touch on it in a second with the receivers because, I looked at this offense, as I think a lot of us did, as the opportunity to sustain Kupp, Cooks, and Woods through the receiving game on top of Gurley or Brown, whatever, the running backs getting their fair share. And so far, that hasn't panned out. And we'll talk about that with the receivers in a minute. That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, it's concerning. And especially like, okay, fine, you phase him out a little bit from that passing game, but he looks bad.
Yes, he
does. He does not look like Todd Gurley. I can't speak to what his big play stats have been going forward, but he runs the ball and he's just getting tripped up immediately, and he just doesn't look like Todd Gurley. That's fine. We've seen running backs kind of get taken off that factor back role. And I mean, he was a monster getting like 30 plus touches per game when he was at his peak. Fine. Like you understand that, but he just doesn't look the same at all. And it's concerning for sure.
There's no question about it. Yikes, to say the least.
Got to put him in your lineup this week, though, right, Shrek? Again, like we just said with Goff.
It's the opportunity, right? Like it's the one of the ideal matchups. Again, short of playing the Miami Dolphins, where he could get it done. So yeah, if you own him, you definitely don't have someone that's got more upside and a better matchup than what you have here. So he's got to go in the lineup, but you're crossing your fingers that something happens and goes the right way.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the way I weigh it real quick, not to spend too much time on this. If you sit Gurley this week and he does well, you're going to kick yourself, right?
Then what? Then you're going to force him into your lineup the rest of the way?
Right, and then if you play him this week and he sucks, then you can at least confidently sit him going forward and not feel bad about it if he explodes next week. Because if it's going to happen, it should be this week. You won't feel bad about it. You'll sleep at night.
Correct. And Rodgers, you make a great point because it's, you obviously make it specifically to Gurley, but it's something people forget, right, when they ask us or any other fantasy podcast, Instagram, whatever, questions leading up to their lineups, right? People get upset when we give advice or anybody gives advice that doesn't work out. We give you guys answers that statistically and matchup based make the most sense. So if it doesn't happen here, all right, then you can bench him. He may go off the next week in a matchup where it makes no fucking sense. But we're giving you what's most likely to happen, right? So if there's a week where it's going to happen, it's here. If he doesn't, then you can feel confident in the fact that next week, statistically and any other way, it should not happen.
Yeah, and just to touch on that real quick, we are also tortured fantasy football owners. Like, we are in the exact same boat as you. So we're not saying like, oh, from some high pedestal, like, do this shit. I'm being like, this is what I am doing. This is why I'm doing it. You don't have to agree with me because I don't sleep at night either. So.
I'm curled up in the fetal position too, sir. I understand your struggle. All right.
Right.
So it's you make a good point. It is a struggle. We all have our demons. The receiving game, Rodgers, Kupp, Cooks, and Woods. Woods is the one that's got me the most concerned, right? He's averaging under 50 yards a game, hasn't found the end zone. I think it was Roto World, I'm not positive, don't quote me on it, who said he's the frustrating middle child of the family, right? He has more targets than Cooks, but a lower average depth of target, so each reception is not as valuable, which we talked about before, the value of those targets. It's a struggle, right? Because, again, a matchup where we should see lots of great things here for the Rams. I think, again, you can roll him. But, again, if he goes, again, for under 50 yards, doesn't find the end zone, I think it's red flag city.
Yeah, and I mean, this has been a recurring theme with what we're saying. Where me and Shrek, it could seem like a bailout of us saying like, oh, well, this is like where you can actually decide what you're going to do going forward. It's week 4. Yep. This is where you can decide what your team actually is, especially entering the bye week. So it's not really a cop out of saying like, oh, well, like roll Woods out again. In theory, you should.
Yes.
Not even matchup based, you should. Here's the other issue with this is that Cooper Kupp's a stud.
Yes.
Right? Brandon Cooks has up and down weeks. You knew that when you drafted him.
100%.
Woods is the least talented guy in the receiving core as far as big play potential factor receiver type shit, right? And honestly, last year I owned him. He felt like an anomaly. I was shocked that he was as good as he was. I remember him back in the Buffalo Bills days where he felt like a burner.
Yeah.
Right? So he found a home with this team, and the offense is good. This team and Sean McVay is a coach that will still win without this offense being as dynamic as it was. And you need to realize that. So, like, this may not be an offense where 4 guys, Gurley and these 3 receivers, are all week to week amazing. Will Robert Woods have the big week and Cooks will have that 5-point week? Yes.
Yep.
Right? Design your lineup that way and expect it now, because if Woods was your wide receiver 2, you need to start to understand that he's your wide receiver 3 now, which isn't that terrible, but just that's where you're at.
Yeah, you have to
roll with the punches, man.
Accept it for what it is. And Rodgers, I think you make a good point with just saying it. It is week 4, right? We, on the podcast, Rodgers and I obviously got the good podcast where we can say, hey, this is a make or break week. But, we had people writing in week 1, week 2, I'm going into panic mode over Zeke, people panicking week 1, like stupid shit. Like, you're soon at the point where, like, if you go 0-4, like, blowing up your team and being in panic mode is fucking justified as shit.
You have to.
You, in week 1 and 2, when you guys are like, I'm going to trade all these guys away, and we're like, hold on. Let's make some other moves first. this is, the breaking point, right? Because if you go 0-4, you really need to start running the table to make a legitimate shot to get into your playoffs. So, this is really make and break for some of these guys, for your teams, for those of you that are on the edge of tossing in the towel.
And that's a great point, because at this point is where you have, honestly, the last hope and a prayer to turn shit around. You start off 0-4 after this week, you have a potential to make a crazy trade, blow up your team, like you said, and turn this shit around and sneak in on a 6 seed or a 4 seed, depending on your league. But not after week 5 or 6. So you're completely right on what you're saying, Shrek. So to wrap that up, you are starting Gurley, Cup, Cooks, and Woods this week, though, right?
Yes, I'm still playing all of them. Just you really hope that that they take advantage of the opportunity. Like you said, you knew what you were getting into. I mean, it happens, but fingers crossed. This is the game if it's going to happen. When it comes to the tight end, though, I am not going to take part in the tight end situation. Nah,
especially now. Just Higbee's still hurt. If anything, the tight end busted up helps your situation a little bit in this, but nah.
Totally spin that wheel. Let's pick it, Rodgers. Are we going to sweep?
Yeah, Rams it.
We're going to sweep it. Rams through. Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. Start on the Vikings side of the ball. Kirk Cousins, man. I guess better NFL QB than fantasy QB, if we want to even use that designation.
Yeah, can't start him in fantasy. Can't own him in fantasy.
Almost can't own him in NFL, but he fits what the Vikings need.
But guess what? If you were an NFL GM of the St. Louis Shreks, you would be paying him $50 million probably this year on a 1-year deal. That's how it goes for Kirk.
A lot of freaking money, man. A lot of freaking money. And we'll talk about the receivers in a second, because that's where things have really changed from where it was last year. But Dalvin Cook, stud, going to finish higher than his ADP. Although you have to temper your expectations. You own him, you're playing him, but the Bears have not allowed a touchdown to a running back through the first 3 weeks. And they have held those top backs to only 3.1 yards per carry. So expectations are just tempered here as a Dalvin Cook owner. Nothing you can do. Tough matchup. It happens.
Yeah.
The receiving game, Rodgers, is – I know Walsh –
I just want to say one thing on the run game. Alexander Mattison, most valuable handcuff in fantasy football, I think, right now. And I also do think as the bye weeks come through and the schedule gets a little bit easier for the Vikings, that Madison could start – I think they're going to pitch count Dalvin a little bit, make sure he's healthy if they make a playoff push. Madison could start to enter that lower end of the Austin Ekeler range, where I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see him finding some starting lineups, even with a healthy Dalvin Cook in like weeks 8 and 9.
Oh, love it. Yeah. It's a good call. You're right. Definitely the most valuable handcuff in fantasy football, unquestioned. The receiving game, Rodgers, I know Walsh is totally off the receivers here in Minnesota. Thielen, I think, is still going to be fine. He's not necessarily going to be what everyone maybe thought he was when they drafted him. But he's got 12.5 PPR points in all 3 games this year. He scored twice on Sunday. Diggs is where I think you can push him almost off the starting radar, right? I mean, he's got 1 lone touchdown in week 2. He's managed 5 receptions for 52 scoreless yards in weeks 1 and 3. That's not good. That's not the Diggs that neither is a Thielen, right? But it's not the Diggs we expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's trash right now, honestly. And, we should have seen the writing on the wall. I hated on Walsh and his Vikings theory.
Yep.
I thought it held weight, but I didn't think it was as drastic as it's been. Here's what I'll say. I am in a league where I have one option at my wide receiver spot, and it is Diggs or Randall Cobb, and I think I might play Randall
Cobb. Yikes.
So that says it all.
That 100% tells you everything you need to know. That's it in the receiving game, and Kyle Rudolph I consider in the receiving game is also fucking irrelevant.
Yeah, no, people still own him, though, and get rid of that shit. That's the only reason I put him on there. Get rid of it.
It's fucking sad, guys. Just do something. Get him off your lineup. I don't know what to tell you. Bears side of the ball, Mitchell Trubisky sucks.
Sucks so much.
2 bad QBs just fucking going at it this week. That's really what it is. Montgomery, this is a guy who – frustrating for me, right? Because I own him in a lot of spots. A lot of leagues I went.
So do I. I don't know if you know that.
I do now. We're
Montgomery believer and owner.
I was a moderate believer. It was more by situation of I went a lot of leagues, 3 wide receiver, in a lot of spots I had him. And he ended up being my running back 1, which is fucking terrifying now. And I want to believe that that they're committing to him with the touches and that I can build some trust into him. And I'm leaning that way. But I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't scared.
Yeah, I mean, where you drafted him is not the production you're getting quite yet. That's what I'll say. We've seen the first week Mike Davis concerns were real.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Cordarrelle Patterson being a factor back in that shit is real.
Yep.
Tariq Cohen, though, has been fading off on the carry game. I think that changes a little bit. But David Montgomery is their guy that they are willing to give like 16 carries to, right?
Yep.
I'm speaking to just this, but the eye test again is that he's pretty good.
Yes.
He's a good running back. They speak so highly of him. He's great. I think that he's not quite at that ceiling yet, but at that one game, when was it? Week 2, I believe. I forget who they're playing now off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him 3 straight 1-yard goal line carries until he punched it in over the top. That is faith in this offense with a lot of veterans on it. Not so much Mitchell Trubisky, but a lot of veterans on it. I think that he is trending upwards. I think you got to believe in him. I think right now he's a low-end wide receiver or a running back 2. But I think that he is on the upswing and that this is a guy that will be a good player and exactly where you drafted him. I really do.
Well, that was a little bit of a therapy session for me, Rodgers, and you helped me there feel a little bit better about where I stand because I'm very very hopeful in Montgomery, but you do leave me feeling a little bit better.
Roll him out this week. Roll him out every week unless you have glaringly better options.
And for what I've spent and everything else, he'll be in my lineups. So hopefully it comes sooner rather than later. Allen Robinson in the receiving game as the top wide receiver last week goes 6 of 7 for 60 yards. But Trubisky had 58 passing yards in total in the third and fourth quarters combined. Pathetic. Robinson this week is going to see Xavier Rhodes. He's a low floor wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I mean, God bless you if you can finagle not playing him.
Well, I know
he will be played for a lot of people. He will have a bad week.
Yep.
And, if you're savvy enough to switch him out for something worth it, good for you, man. It's just not going to be anything special this week.
Nope. I think it's a dud week for the rest. The tight end, the rest of the wide receivers. There's nobody I trust, especially after watching Trubisky go for what was it combined 58 yards. I said in the third and fourth quarters last week.
He's bad, dude.
It's not. That's you're dragging the whole team down. At least Robinson in good matchups is okay. You can roll him out there this week. For him, it's just a bad matchup. The rest of them you can't trust.
And take it from a Packer fan who actually really liked Mitch Trubisky. And it's just not there, man. It's not there. Drop Trey Burton. Stop with Trey Burton. One good year, get rid of him. Stop it.
So we're seeing a theme so far here in part 2, guys, of the tight ends. Cut the shit. Cut the shit for sure with the tight ends. Let's pick this game. Vikings, sweep it through. Let's touch on the Los Angeles Chargers at the Miami Dolphins. Arguably the best. The best game of the week. Start your Chargers. Don't start any Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, we got to talk about Melvin Gordon.
I know, but
even though he's not going to play this week. But
I know, but as a whole, I think that sums it up. Phillip Rivers, I think he's a must start. The Dolphins are allowing a second worst total of 31.7 points per game to opposing quarterbacks. It's just fucking money.
Here's another thing I'm going to say. I think the Chargers win this game handily. I'm also going to say go back and look at specifically with the Chargers and Phillip Rivers, that team West Coast traveling to the East Coast on a 1 o'clock game. See what happens there. Not really great numbers. Very pedestrian. I think this game will be closer than everybody thinks. I think it will still be a 3-possession game. But I don't know if it's going to be as studly for guys like Phillip Rivers that people think. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Start him. I'm just throwing that out there. Start him. You should start him in theory. But the Chargers on 1 o'clock games, East Coast, not a good history.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. The stats don't lie. The running back game, Austin Ekeler, Justin Jackson this week. Melvin Gordon, while he's supposed to have reported by now, and he may have, again, guys, we record in advance. We don't expect him to play this week against the Dolphins. So it's going to be the Ekeler and Justin Jackson show. I think Justin Jackson does get involved here a little bit more than he has. Just from looking at the past few games, number 2 running backs against the Dolphins. have gotten involved. Gus Edwards, 17 touches. Tony Pollard, 16 touches. Obviously doesn't dictate what the Chargers will or won't do. But if they truly believe Ekeler is the guy and maybe they're going to let him lead that role with Melvin Gordon back, they may not overwork him if they get up big, going contrary to how they typically play West Coast to East Coast 1 p.m. games.
Yeah, and I think they also are going to kind of want to test what it's like to have a more two-back set down there. Like, if you're an Ekeler owner, start Ekeler every single week. When Melvin Gordon comes back and is active, start Ekeler still every single week. We've seen that before. But I think, like you said, I agree with everything you just said. I think they're going to want to see what that game plan looks like a little bit more against a gimme win.
100%. Keenan Allen, stud. He'll be in your lineup as well. Mike Williams, I'll take his 5 or 8 targets, whatever it's going to be based on value, as we kind of had talked about on part 1 of the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit banged up, so I always get worried about a blowout potential victory when someone's a little bit banged up. But
keep your eye on his health.
Wide receiver 3 to me this week.
Yep, keep your eye on his health. The Chargers defense, guys, if they're on the waiver, by the time you listen to this, your waiver wires will be done. So obviously a great defensive matchup. Everyone against the Dolphins so far has done it. The Chargers will be just fine.
Yeah.
Because the Dolphins suck. Anything else on the Chargers?
Are you going to read my Dolphins write-up?
Yep. So on the Dolphins side of the ball, we've got and what's that? So let's pick this game. I think I can safely say we're both taking the Dolphins.
Yeah, no. Don't trick me like that, Chargers. But here's one thing I'll say. We don't have to talk about it. Is anybody on the Dolphins ownable?
I wanted to say the easy answer is no, and his name is escaping me right now.
Kenyon Drake?
Definitely Kenyon Drake. No, it wasn't.
Wilson?
It wasn't. No.
Nope. Parker?
Nope.
Mike Gesicki?
All right. I'm just going to go with no. There's a name. But, it's probably Kenyon Drake.
No?
No. You don't want
no. That speaks to it right there. Just no. Just
you don't want anybody. Ew, and ew. Sweep it on through. Chargers it is. So, Rodgers, we're going to take a quick break. Guys, remember, Let's Talk Fantasy Football is coming to you courtesy of MyBookie. We go and bet on MyBookie. It's fast, it's easy, and they pay you when you win. Let's face it, where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on. Use the promo code Let's Talk, which gets you a 100% sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Again, guys, that's Let's Talk for that 100% sign-up bonus. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll pick it back up, guys, with the Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, home of the brutally honest fantasy advice you've always needed.
All right, guys, and we are back, and we're ready to kick it off here. The second half of part 2 of the Week 4 fantasy preview, Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals. And starting the Seahawks side of the ball, Russell Wilson, a stat goes over 400 yards last week, is again a must-start here against the Cardinals. Just really the side note that I have here, Lamar Jackson gashed this defense for 120 yards on the ground, which does nothing but add to Russell Wilson's potential upside. He is in your lineups here.
Yeah, I faced Russell Wilson in 2 leagues last week. He gutted me, and I'm pretty sure I'm facing him in 2 leagues this week, and he's going to gut me again. So whatever.
Jesus Christ, that's a rough matchup. Chris Carson, after killing it week 1, looking like a stud, shows his fumbling issues, which we're very well aware of. I don't have Pete Carroll's quote, but he came out pretty much saying that they were standing behind him to some effect, I believe was to give him his opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So that's it, averaging 3.5 yards per carry, 3 fumbles, not great, but if you own him, you're still starting him. The opportunity is just too great.
Yeah, absolutely. And where you drafted him, that's
you
how
have to. Yep. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. Lockett's seen 28% target share on the season, 11th among wide receivers. He's got a very favorable matchup here against Tremaine Brock, who's allowed the 6th most yards in coverage. He's a no-brainer start for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Cardinals have been getting gutted. They're the most poorest defense out there right now. DK Metcalf, I hope he picks up a little bit this week because he's been tied with Jaron Brown for targets. I don't want that wide receiver 2 situation to be as confusing as it is. I kind of want DK Metcalf to separate himself this week.
Yeah, some clarity would be huge for us. So fingers crossed. Rodgers Disley, is a must start here. He's seen 55% of the snaps, and with the rest of them going to Nick Vannett, who was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, clearly shows their confidence in Disley, and he's playing against the Cardinals. So he is the best possible play here.
Yeah, it was funny because I saw that the Seahawks re-signed Luke Wilson, who was always there for a while, and I was like, oh, no, is that a concern? And then I saw they got rid of Nick Vannett. So Disley got the fluky touchdown at the end of the game. I think it was like as time expired in the fourth quarter or some shit like that. But again, I'm in a league where I have George Kittle, who's on a bye. And I was like, oh, no, it's between Vernon Davis and Tyler Eifert. And then someone dropped Disley in my league. And I was just like, oh, my God, thank God.
Fucking money.
So fine. Must start. I mean, this tight end pool, must start.
100%. No need to even spin the fucking wheel, guys. He's your guy. Seattle Seahawks defense, also a nice play here against the Arizona Cardinals. Yes. Pressure all fucking day. Arizona ranks bottom 6 in yards per pass attempt, passer rating, and sacks per game. So
chill. Kyler's the man, dude. We'll talk.
All right, well, let's flip to the other side. Kyler Murray. Take us away.
I mean, here's the thing. Kyler Murray, I was a big Kyler Murray believer in before the draft. You know this. His floor has actually been decently high. He has not been running whatsoever. This last week, he was like scrambling around like he was going to be killed the entire time. Finally rushed a little bit. I think he had 60-something yards on the ground. I do think that he will come into his own. If you drafted him, hold on to him depending on what your situation is. If you own Patrick Mahomes, then you should definitely hold on to him for a little bit. Just kidding. That's my situation. That O-line is bad. That's the issue right there. That O-line is bad. He's under so much pressure, and he's still playing well. That's why I like him. Hopefully they figure their shit out. But Kyler Murray's floor has been relatively high in the same way that on the last podcast I spoke about Jacoby Brissett. I like that.
Yeah, I mean the 69 rushing yards last week is huge. Kind of gives you that extra boost, that little more confidence there. Without it, definitely he's a rookie. He's going up and down a little bit, but the rushing yards definitely give you a little more confidence. You own David Johnson, you're starting him. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wide receiver, Larry Fitzgerald. We talk about it each week. Old man Fitz does it again. He continues to do it. Fitz is an every week start for what you probably paid nothing for.
Yeah, definitely. Huge target share, complete shock of the year. I would say one of the better values in the drafts of this year for sure.
Yep. I actually think there's a couple of leagues I've looked at where week one leading up to it, they were sending in questions, had him on their waiver wires because people were just like, yo, Fitz is old, fuck this guy. Like,
I don't doubt it.
I believe it. I'm sure there are plenty of leagues that he went undrafted because it's literally just the non-sexy pick that, like, when are you pumped up to take Larry Fitzgerald? Like, he's got to drop off at some point, right? And sure as shit.
The wide receiver 5 to rot on your bench all year.
Yeah, literally. The fucking and I have Corey Davis, and I passed on Larry Fitzgerald. So that tells you everything you need to know. Christian Kirk. I would say probably a wide receiver 3 with some upside. He caught 10 to 12 for 59 yards. I mean, he's averaging 10 targets a game. Like, that's great.
Yeah, I love that happened for him, honestly, because I always liked his talent last year. I was an owner of him last year. No touchdowns yet on the year with a really high floor.
Yep.
That is nice. He will find the end zone eventually. Perfect own.
Great volume for sure. I am not interested at all in the tight end spot for the Cardinals.
No, I don't even know what's going on there.
Yep, perfect. Anything else on this game?
No, sir.
Let's pick it. Seattle.
Arizona, baby.
Hey, there we go. First split here on part 2.
Right the ship.
There it is. All right, Jacksonville Jaguars at the Denver Broncos. Starting the Broncos side of the ball, Joe Flacco, yikes, whatever. Really has nothing to do with your fantasy QB
existence, life,
QB existence. I guess we'll say running back situation. Phillip Lindsay, along with Freeman. Sorry, my computer froze. I tried to scroll through my notes. Phillip Lindsay, 21 rushes for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. Big game. I think it continues for him, right? Freeman's playing through an injury. Lindsay continues to be that lead guy with the volume. I think he's in your lineup despite playing the Jaguars.
Yeah, I agree. I was a Lindsey Dowder. I think he's a mid running back 2 for you.
Yep, I hated him as well. I had no shares. I avoided the situation, and I missed the boat, and that's okay. But I definitely missed the boat. Freeman battling through the injury. Let him kind of do his thing right now. This is where I'm concerned about Joe Flacco, right, for the Broncos. Emmanuel Sanders, Cortland Sutton. Sanders totals 2 catches for 10 yards. And then this week he gets Jalen Ramsey, in coverage if he's active. He's not going to do him any favors. Yikes.
So real quick, Shrek, I gotta definitely double check what I said. But while I was speaking to my mom at the break and not listening to her, and on speakerphone looking up football news, I saw that with all the Jalen Ramsey news going on, I believe he said something to the effect that him and his wife are having a kid, or that he has a back injury. And let me see, Jaguars say cornerback Jalen Ramsey will join family for birth of daughter and will return to the team when he's ready. With everything going on, that broke like an hour ago. That sounds like he won't be there. As far as Emmanuel Sanders is concerned, I think that they just flood him with all their secondary guys who are still good. So good point stands. Big Cortland Sutton game, I think, this week.
Okay. I'm okay with that. The ball's got to go somewhere, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, no, Cortland Sutton and Emmanuel Sanders this year has proved to. I like him a lot this year.
Yep.
Good defenses have shut him down.
Yep.
That's about it. I think Cortland Sutton is the guy that is a bigger chuck up ball type guy, end zone type guy, and I think he has more upside on the pay dirt. Emmanuel Sanders is just not his game, I don't think.
100%. We're on the same page. That's it for me on the Denver Broncos side of the ball, Rodgers.
For sure.
All right, let's flip it over and talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. As much as we love Mr. Minshew over there, looks fucking badass. Excited for this week's outfit. I'm only interested in Leonard Fournette, DJ Shark, and are you interested in Westbrook?
I'm interested in Westbrook just because of the sheer volume. He dropped a touchdown last week. Minshew is a guy that everybody obviously likes personally.
Of course.
Or personably or whatever it is. He's not really a huge high-impact guy for fantasy value. No. So I don't think that I can – if I was a Jaguars owner, I couldn't say that DJ Shark and DD Westbrook will be fantasy relevant going into the week. I think one probably will be.
Yep.
I don't fucking know which one it is. On the road in Denver, right? On the road in Denver?
No, they're home in Oh, yeah, they're in Denver. You're right. Sorry.
On the road in Denver. I hope you have some better options. I think both of these guys are great receivers and great owns in wide receiver 4 range. DJ Shark a little higher. I'd like to avoid it this week for both of them, personally.
Yeah, I'm okay with avoiding it. I think I like DJ Shark just a little bit more. He's got scored in 3 out of 3. Just odds. If you're going to roll one of them, I think I'd rather roll Shark.
For sure.
But that's it on that game. I'm taking the Jaguars.
I'm going to take the Broncos. They've been in close games with good teams. I think they finally get it done at home.
All right, fair enough. I like you, Minshew. Kind of felt like I was going to say Pikachu there.
Yeah, you should have.
Dallas Cowboys at the New Orleans Saints. Let's start on the Cowboys side of the ball. Dak Prescott is an every week must start. Waiver wire savior for me in a lot of spots where I was able to pick him up, and he's just been unreal.
Yeah, it could be one of the more valuable players in fantasy this year. And he's weird because why didn't anybody see it coming?
Dude, I don't know. I
kind of liked him. Sorry to cut you off, but I had him like in my drafts as like quarterback 8 or 9, and it just didn't work out that I got him, and I was high on him. But like, we should have all seen this coming. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking with someone the other day, and I was talking about how he was like roughly my like QB 12. Like I was like, he's fine. That offense is fine, but they're just going to feed Zeke. I don't know that Dak can take that next step and get himself into that like 8 spot necessarily where you had him. And I thought he was going to be good, but not great. And obviously just missed the ball. That's it. You know, it is what it is. But he's legit. Zeke is also legit. Tony Pollard, I think, very interesting. You know, not that he's relevant for an every week start. Obviously, against the Dolphins, he played well when he had the opportunities. But important to note, if something did happen to Zeke, you know, obviously he showed up and played. But if he were to go down, Tony Pollard, I think, would step right in.
Second most valuable handcuff in the league to Madison.
There it is. Wide receivers, you talked about, did you say Randall Cobb before? I know we were talking about the opportunities, right? So obviously Amari Cooper has been fantastic, and he's going to continue to be very, very good here in this matchup.
Amari Cooper, a guy I never believed in, finally owned him this year in our league that we are in.
Yep.
He's been a stud so far. Had an MRI on his foot this week. Scared the shit out of me. And said everything's good to go. He's all right, fine. So if you see that, don't worry about it. Gallup's out for a while. The rest of this is a clusterfuck, man. I'm going to rope Witten into this. We saw last week, again, the Dolphins, kind of hard to gauge the offense. Devin Smith comes in. He's been looking good. He had 5 targets to Cobb's 4, to Witten's 4. Witten has been a little more consistent in his role. Cobb's kind of consistent in his role. He's like a little bit of a rich man's Cole Beasley, I think, right here. I like Cobb this week and his floor solely because I think that this will be a bit of a shootout, and I could totally see in prime time Cobb. Maybe I'm having Packers fan flashbacks of him ripping up the Saints dome on that opening day. We'll win, whatever it is. But they've been ripping up packages for Cobb, getting him some rushing attempts. He runs that slot pretty well. I like Cobb for 7 to 8 total touches this week and maybe finding some pay dirt in the end zone. That's just me.
All right. I mean, hey, it may be the Packer in you talking, but definitely a possibility, right? I mean, the ball's got to go somewhere. As it comes to Jason Witten, I just can't do it. I'll roll the dice and spin the wheel on somebody else. I also think he falls into the category of what the fuck are you doing owning him? I know he played fine last week, 54 yards, I think, or something, but come on.
There's just, I mean, I always look at it's stupid, but I look at someone and just being like, you're playing the name. And then it works out, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. But, like, it's just, again, like you said, here's one thing I can say about Jason Witten. He's probably never going to get 20 fantasy points out of the tight end position.
He's never going to win you your week.
Someone Will Dissly will have.
Yes.
Some motherfucker like that, like whatever it is.
It's never going to win you. He's never going to win you your week.
Yeah, no.
Period.
It'll be fluky if he does, and it won't go back-to-back weeks.
No.
I want to ask you about Devin Smith. What are your thoughts?
I'm just trying. Let me pull up his stats.
So he had the touchdown in week 2 when Gallup went down.
He
had 5 targets.
Yep, 2 for 5 for 39 here over the Dolphins. He misses a connection kind of in the end zone there.
I like him as a sneaky own.
I think I was a sneaky own. Okay.
So here's why. I'm not saying you play him this week. I like him as a sneaky own for this reason.
I think
we talked about. Well, go on. So you say yours.
I'm just gonna say I think he stays sneaky as like a DFS play versus like if you want to roll a dice there. I can't imagine he's fucking cost much. I'm interested to hear on the own because I don't know if I can get. I don't know if I'm there.
Only reason I'm saying an own is when we've talked about guys like Sanu on an own or even guys like Westbrook, who I don't really like that much as far as playing. The competition after Amari Cooper is guys with extremely clear roles. You have Witten, who's a 4 to 5 target guy a game. Cobb, consistent 4 to 5 targets every single game, and we've seen the Cole Beasley thing in the past, right?
Yeah.
Dak Prescott and Gallup blew up, right, in a way that kind of came about in the same situation. I can't say exactly how it happened. I'm just saying if Devin Smith is relevant, I think based on the shitty waiver wire that is out there in every league, 10-team, 12-team, 14-team league, don't matter. I think Devin Smith is worth rolling out to say, hey, is the guy that could get 8 targets from Dak Prescott in that Cowboys offense every week, someone that I want as my last wide receiver on my bench compared to any Dolphin, fucking, Geronimo Allison, guys like that are like, or whatever. Yeah. I think that the upside is there a little bit just in the fact that his role is more clear cut, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, I mean,
good winner, never changing.
No, you're right. They are who we said they were. Right. Versus it's a good offense. You're right. Gallup, if he misses more time, we saw that opportunity where he could step up. And I think that's why people did like Devin Smith last week. I think in
right.
Yes, I think a lot of people did have him last week thinking the opportunity again was there, the potential. Yeah, I mean, you're right. The waiver wire does suck in a lot of places. So it's opportunity. I guess you're right. They're dart throws, right? It's just like we tell people at the end of drafts before the season, like the guys you're taking in 10 through 16 or whatever are fucking, they're dart throws. You're hoping someone pops, and that's exactly what you're doing with Devin Smith.
And just real quick for context, I'd rather own Devin Smith than any of the secondary after T.Y. Hilton Colts receivers. Yep. I'd rather own Devin Smith than any of the secondary Saints receivers who we'll get into in a second. Yes. Guys like that. That's what I'm saying is that
when you
Kuti, Kenny Stills.
Yeah, when you compare those guys, I mean it's I just thought of a name, and I didn't mean to cut myself short. But
was it Corey Davis?
It wasn't, because I know the answer. Jarvis Landry.
Mm-hmm. Was it over what? What is the situation?
Devin Smith. No. Just to own.
I'm going to take Jarvis Landry just because he's proven more in the NFL than Devin Smith has. But I will say I won't be surprised if Devin Smith has a better year than he did.
Well, and that's totally fair, and it's the answer I expected. But
right.
I look at it as like, if you went with Devin Smith, I could also buy the argument because we talked about the value of targets, right?
Right.
Value of targets here from Dak. I get why, and I would say the same thing. But another week or two of things kind of working out for him could be a different conversation because of the value of those targets.
That's why it's worth the own.
All right. I'm with you. Let's flip to the other side of the ball and talk about the Saints. My boy Teddy Bridgewater leading the charge for the Saints. Shout out to Teddy. That's really all I got.
Yeah, shout out to Teddy for making Michael Thomas fine.
Yes. And literally I think it's Alvin Kamara, it's Michael Thomas, and I don't give a shit about anybody else. I mean, Murray is the handcuff to Kamara, but that's about it.
I don't think anyone needs to be owned other than those two guys. Murray's been trending downwards in what he was. He's not the Mark Ingram of last year. He's garbage. It's weird with the Saints, man. Thomas, Kamara, that's all you need.
That's the only value there at all. Super easy. Never thought I'd see the day where we breeze through the Saints just like that. Mm-hmm. But let's pick it. Are we going to sweep the Cowboys?
No, I'm going to take the Saints solely because it's a home game. Cowboys aren't going to go 16-0, man. Got to bleed at some point. And
that's true.
The game. I'm going to go on the other side this time.
All right, we're doing better on the splits here this time. I'm going to take the Cowboys. Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some Monday Night Football. Let's start on the Steelers side of the ball. Let's go right to James Conner, running back. A little I don't even know if concerning is the right word. I guess you could say I'm concerned about Conner. I'm concerned about that whole team as a whole for fantasy football. But I'm concerned about Conner, particularly for where people drafted him, and now you're in a forced I got to play him anyway spot.
Yeah, I've always had shares in the Steelers, whether it was Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, everywhere. This is the first year I didn't, and I'm so glad that I don't. And I'll be honest, I've separated myself from the entire situation. I feel bad for anybody in it, whether it's you or Conner. Not bad draft picks where you took them. You're just fucked, man.
Yeah, I like Juju. I had hoped to have some shares of Juju this year. It just didn't work out based on where I fell in drafts. And Juju 3 for 7, 81 yards and a touchdown this last week. He's going to stay extremely targeted, which is obviously nice, but he's a wide receiver too. And I wish I could say he's a wide receiver 1 against a bad Bengals secondary, but I just can't. Not with confidence.
No, you can't. And he should be. That's what sucks. Because I like Juju a lot, and Juju should have had the breakout that he was poised for, and it's just not fucking happening. And honestly, I think he's going to gain a little bit more clout in this situation, becoming a steady wide receiver too. Yeah,
he's once he's accepted for what he now is, he'll be fine. In the beginning, they're going to be dud games. They're going to be whatever you want to call them. But that's really it. James Washington is nothing to me.
Yeah, I mean,
again, bad Bengals secondary, but
can't play him this week. But you always think Steelers options are ownable. Just no.
No, I don't think you can force that one at all. He went 2 of 4 for 14 yards last week. So Vance McDonald banged up his shit. They trade. I just lost his name.
Nick Fournette.
Yep, from Seattle. They're optimistic that McDonald will play against the Bengals Monday night, but you don't go and trade for a tight end if you're optimistic that your starting tight end is going to be fine. Just bad all around.
Yeah, the reason why I brought that up is because it's a Monday night banged up tight end, and people have McDonald as the number 1 tight end. Get away from it right now.
Yep.
Don't look for that shit to happen. Walk away from that situation. Monday night tight end injury, stop.
Yeah, it's not even worth it. Don't even try and pick up Nick Fournette and try and play the fucking game. Find a different option.
Yeah, pick up fucking Ebron. I hate Ebron this week, but just go for it.
Yep, you have nothing to lose on that side of the ball. Get away from this situation. Yeah. Anything else on the Steelers?
No.
And our very, very last team, the Bengals, they're trash. I don't think we have to talk about any of them. I'm kidding. That one was there for Vinny.
Okay, I would have made that same joke, but I felt bad when you made it for some reason, and I was like, "Wait, no, I wrote stuff." Damn.
I'm just like, "Oh man, I actually have something." This is a shame. Let's start with the running back position. Let's start with Mixon. He turned things around in week 3, 95 scrimmage yards, 4.1 yards per carry, and a receiving touchdown. The Pittsburgh defense has allowed 6 different running backs to put up 9.7 PPR points or more through the first 3 weeks. I think Mixon has himself a nice Monday night here.
Yeah, I think this will be a little bit of a difference from what we've seen from Bengals-Steelers shootout of shit every single week, where it's like a 12-9 type game with fucking nothingness.
100%. I'm right there with you. In the receiving game, we've got Tyler Boyd, who last week he went –
He had a good week, I think. I checked.
Yeah, 6 for 11 for 67 yards. He's got
a 4 week. That's what I thought of. That's what it was.
Double-digit targets in every game. He hasn't found the end zone yet, but his floor is really as high as anybody in the league. He's got a nice matchup against the Steelers. He's in your lineup.
Yeah, absolutely.
No question. Do you have any interest in rolling out John Ross?
I'm holding off on John Ross. If you have John Ross, it was a waiver wire pickup probably or a late-round flyer. His targets are declining every single week. Bengals versus Steelers is the most unpredictable game in, I think, the whole entire NFL.
Divisions, man. Division games are fucking –
As far as what you can take from that, John Ross is not where I'm trying to get my fucking money this week.
No, and neither is Tyler Eifert.
No, Tyler Eifert, no. In the tight end roulette pool, he's going to be the guy that stays on. But put it this way, like I said before, I had a decision between Vernon Davis, which I think is garbage play, and Tyler Eifert, and I chose Vernon Davis. So that says all you really got to say.
When Vernon Davis is the pick, it's never good.
Have I told you we should abolish tight ends in fantasy football, or is that just me?
Dude, you should send a letter to the White House.
Shit. That's crazy, Shrek. Chill.
My bad, dude. My bad. Well, I guess we could talk about Andy Dalton. He's actually not a terrible option against a bad Steelers game. Heavy workload here against Pittsburgh. Again, I mean, you probably have other options.
Yeah, it's like going to the DMV on a Friday. Like, you'll have more fun afterwards, and it's less shitty knowing that you'll get it over with soon. But you got to do it eventually anyways. Just fucking get it over with. That's the best way I could say.
It's like going to the DMV on a Friday. I don't know if you could put anyone down any more than that. Yeah. Yikes! All right. Anything else on this game, Rodgers?
Oh God, no. That's the worst way to wrap up a podcast ever.
Bengals.
Oh, you're picking the Bengals?
I'm taking the Bengals.
I'm going to pick the Bengals too, dude. I thought I would be different from you, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna take the Bengals. So if any of you get a sweep, which means they're definitely gonna fucking lose to Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be 30-0 today.
Ruthless. But guys, that's gonna do it for us here on part 2 of the Week 4 fantasy preview. Get your questions ready, send them in, give us time to get back to you. And be specific, guys, when you're sending in players. When you say Williams or some of these other names, we don't know who you're talking about. So give us some context because your question is going to be skipped over and we may not get back to you. But send them in and we're excited. Another big week ahead. Packers game is already in the books. So that means Sunday at 1 o'clock, guys. Get your red zone ready because we're going to rock and roll. Rodgers, anything for the people?
No, man. Let's go. Week 4. Hopefully you're doing well.
Here we go, guys. Remember, make or break for you guys. For those of you at 3-0, let's get to 4-0. For those of you at 0-3, let's not go to 0-4. And Rodgers hopes to go 3-1 for one of the best starts in a long time for him. But guys, for Let's Talk Fantasy Football, I am Nick Schreck. He is Matt Rodgers. We will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.